Hi everybody, welcome again to my watercoloring journeys. This is a picture that was here framed in the apartment that I live, and it was just so pretty I thought I would try to do a watercolor. And then when I, of course, like I mentioned before, remembered that I had these, which are jelly gouache. You can see right here it says jelly gouache paint sets. This is what they look like. They're kind of like the consistency of pudding. As a matter of fact, I wanted to take the cover off so I could have them out so I can utilize them. But they are really very interesting. I am at the moment mixing the two together, watercolors and gouache. So this painting, like I said, is a mixture of those types of paints. I'd say right now a little bit more on the side of watercolor. More on the side of the gouache paints. So what I'm going to do here this morning, if I can stay ahead of my allergies, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to work on some of these little areas that it's a farm scene, like a scene of an area of a home, very pretty, in a field, a brook. There'll be a brook here. And these are the trees in the background. What I used for these is different techniques, and I'll show you as I go along. So let's just keep going here. Right now I'm going to grab a little bit of the pink and the brown to kind of go over this little roof area. I'm using the tip of this brush to put the roof on. I'm going to pull a little bit off for a little bit of highlights. This is, let's see if I can see the size, a number 8, and it's around, excuse me, my beeper is beeping. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, so like I said, we're in the middle of this this little picture, this painting. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to add some little. I'm going to take my smaller brush, actually, at the moment, smaller round brush with a tip, and I want to put a few little branches, tree branches, right here. I've got a little area here that is, I need to get a little bit of sepia in there, a little bit of area right here where there's some little trees that are coming up, and they've got these, see these fine little tips that make these little tiny lines that are just awesome. Now, going over something like this, it's actually creating depth in the painting. Pushing things back, putting things in front of other things is pushing things back. So I am going to get my coffee because it's still morning here and we're having a snowstorm. Whoops. In spring. So it's one of those days. So we're gonna get this together here and put some more fine little, see how fine you can make these little branches and little trees and bushes. And so we're gonna add some here. This is the base, and I'm going to come back into these rocks. I had put these rocks, and the shadow side is this side. So I had put some in, and I had been putting some shadows on this back side of some of the rocks. And what I'm going to add into this after will be some just gotta kind of darken up some of these shadows a little bit. And we're also going to add some green into this mixture here for underneath these rocks. As the grass is just a bit on the excuse me, on the darker side right here by the, it's amazing to me how this gouache, pudding gouache, it just glides along the paper, like I said, like you're painting with pudding or something. It's just what it reminds me of. Beautiful paints. I'm gonna, I've kept the whole bin so I can, get them again, hopefully. If not, something like them. But it's been quite interesting to work with these. So I'm over here, and I'm still using the smaller brush. Right here, I'm just adding some browns to my greens, and on this side, this is the lighter side. So my grass is going to be, getting to be a bit on the lighter side here as I come over to this. And what I'm going to do is move it around so I can get some, what, appears as highlights in my grass. But the grass is a lot lighter in areas and darker in other areas, which is usually the case when we're painting grass. And now we're coming over here where the trees are located. So within that area, there's, going to be a little shade in where those trees are. So I'm just adding some brownish to the grass a little bit, and probably a little bit of sepia in there, just to kind of darken it up. And then, of course, as you come down the picture, it gets lighter and lighter. So we're just going to kind of incorporate the lighter of the grass color. Leave little white things here and there. It just adds to everything, little areas of white, if you can remember to do it. So I am using wash. I keep water. I keep putting my, I'm going to get my little cloth here because I'm talking and I came too far into this little, my little brook here that's gonna be happening. I don't want it to be green. I don't want to put yellow in here because when I add the blue, when I add blue to yellow, or yellow to blue, we're going to get green. Which, that's okay and to add some to it, but right now that's not what I'm ready for. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is come here to the brown. Excuse me. Oh boy. Lovely allergies, right? The brown and the green. And I'm gonna start putting that in here. Well, seems as though you do have to get, the one thing about this gouache mixture here, you gotta add a little more to the equation. But, other than that, it's wonderful. It's like I said, it's like we're making the sides of the water, the sides of the bank right now. So it needs to be dark. It almost looks black. But with watercolor, it's light when it dries. So you have to, give it time to do what it's going to do. So coming along here, and we're adding our edge. The water will be in here. So this is the edge. Putting that in. And again, excuse me, again, you want it a little darker in some areas and lighter than others, because that's the way it actually looks when you're looking at it in reality. I guess I really am a reality type of painter. I have tried different ways, but I really do like to paint what it really looks like. So anyway, this is what I'm doing at the moment here. But see the different colors of the greens? I mean, it's so pretty. So we're gonna add even a little more lighter green right here. Sort of mix it in, wet my brush, come back here, pull it over to the side, and then I'm gonna be adding some darker colors in there. I'm gonna pull a little bit out here and there. Wet my brush and just, now I'm gonna add a little blue to this lighter green for a minute. And right in here, it shows, you know, shadow. Some shadow going on. So that means that we're going to make that area just a tad bit darker. Unlike acrylic, when you put something on and it's dark. Watercolor, you know, you have to add lots of layers. Excuse me, my allergies are something else right now, and it is morning, which is the worst time of the day for my allergies. But I have the most energy in the morning, so in the mornings will be a lot of paintings. So I've got this here, and I've got this here. And then what we want to do is we want to incorporate a little bit of the brown and green sort of above this, coming into the green, you know, and there's a little more brown down here, the brownish green. So we're gonna, plus it's closer to you, so it's all gonna be a bit on the darker side here. Now, I'm gonna let that dry. I want to sort of pull a few areas of color though. I'm actually going to take my paper towel here and do that. Right across the way it shows like a little lighter area. And then I'm going to go back up in here and add a bit of darkness to this, where the stone wall is. That's what it shows. And then we're going back up in here. We're adding this right by the house. There just seems to be a lot of very light green. So we're going to add the yellow-green sort of color all in here. Now, as you can see, I'm not having anything bleeding, so to speak, as I've mentioned before, into anything else. Everything I'm painting around and near right now is basically dry. So if I hadn't waited, then now, except for this, okay, right now I'm going to be doing something that I need to add a little white, as you usually see around, you know, water edges. So we need to just add this right here, right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my cobalt blue and a little bit of the brown. And I'm going to start adding my water here. I think I'll do that before I add the white. And then I'm going to just, and you want to add your water back and forth. Is basically, you know, the sort of the rule of thumb or whatever. I mean, do whatever you want. That's the wonderful thing about painting. You want your water to go whatever way you want your water to go. That's up to you. But you want to try to make it go back and forth when you're painting it. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I've learned. So, I mean, isn't this pretty? Now, when I come here closer to me, closer to this, the front of the picture, I'm getting darker because I'm getting closer to myself. And as I said, in this composition, I've actually chosen this to be the shade side over here on the right, and this to be on this side, the lighter side, which you can see indicated by the lighter portions on this side and the darker portions over here. For instance, look at the barn. You don't notice these things until you learn and understand these things, but look at the barn. On this side, it's lighter. I mean darker, I'm sorry, on this side. Whoops. So if you can zoom into the barn when you're looking at this and watching it, you'll see that it's all darker on this side. I've made it lighter that way, going to the left, because my shadow's on the right. I add a little bit of white there because that's all the side towards the light. These little areas right here are the little windows. And of course, under every little roof, there is the shadow. So you gotta add the little, carefully, the little dark underneath, under the, whatever they're called, roof things. My great technical terms. The part of the roof. And there's always shadow underneath, so you have to add that. And I'm coming in. You always come in when you paint with more paint after, when you're doing shadows on pictures, because this gouache and watercolor dries light. It doesn't dry dark like acrylic. So you just have to keep these things in mind when you're doing these things. Now I'm going to come over here, and I know this is already white, but I want to add a little bit of my white that I've got on here, so that when I add the rest of the roof color, which I'm taking a little bit of red, a little bit of the brownish, and a little bit of the blue, a little extra brown, and that's what I'm coloring, coloring this roof with over here. Whoops, I forgot, you can't see it. Okay, so I am way, let's see if I can adjust the camera. I'm way over here on this side. I'm on this side for this roof. I want a little more blue in there. Okay, there we go. It's like a grayish, brownish, bluish with a little hint of reddish. So that is with little bits of highlight, so we pull that out. And we're going to dip into a little sepia, come over here. As I say, like we're not seeing that side, we're looking at it from the front, so we're seeing everything that we can see from the front. These are the little windows. Again, I'm using this little tip, this awesome little tip that is at some of these brushes that are nice like that. Some tips are not so pointed, but this one's a good point. I've got a little too much water on my brush, so unfortunately it's spreading a little bit, but as it dries I will fix that. So I'm going to go over here into the green again, a little bit of the red color. Then I need to dab in a tree right here. Again, that's facing that way. I'm putting in, it's a little darker, so sometimes I wet my brush, I come back in and add, some more shadow to the trees, because we want this to show that the shadow is on this side. We don't want the light parts. I mean, when you're looking at things, sometimes you still see light. It just depends on where all the sun is shining. Like I can add a little light right there. The sun may be kind of shining right in there or right there. But for the most part, I'm depicting that it's darker over there. That makes sense to you? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to this barn. And what that is that's a bit of an orangey color. So I'm going to pick up some orange and red because it's dark, and I'm going to add some brown. I'm going to try to add some brown. It's getting kind of dry there. All right, and we're going to come over here, and it's not going to be that dark because it's in the light. You see how the water, see I've got water on my brush, so you can see the water is moving around. I don't know if you can tell that, but you see there's some water right there. It'll pool here and there, so you move it around to wherever you want it to be. And this is a chimney, so I'm going to do that while I'm right here. Isn't that cool? All right, so now we're going to come here with the tip of my brush and put some more, dab a little more of my water off. I want to be more defined right here. The less water you have, the more defined you can create. The more water, the less defined, because it's kind of just going to do it at once, which is the wonderful thing of watercolor, actually. Now, I'm not even going to wash my brush off. I'm just going to come in the sepia, and I'm going to come down here with my, I have less water on my brush. I took water off. I've got to make the sides of the building here to define that. And of course we have the shadow under the eaves. I guess that's what it's called, eaves. Oh, I just love it. I love the watercolor. It's really funny. I did not think I would. Because, just 1 minute, please. I'm sorry. I've got to get a battery. I've got to get a cord for my iPad. It's running low. I will be right back. It never seems to fail when I'm doing something important. I have to stop and plug something in. It just never seems to fail, but that's okay. We can handle that, right? All right, so I'm still working on this little barn house. Now I'm adding in these little windows. If you notice, now and then I turn my brush, because as you use it, you know, the little point's going to go over there and move over there, and depending on how you want it to be used, you have to turn it. Make sure that point is, I don't want every single thing I do to be perfect or anything like that. I couldn't do that anyways. But I mean, I'm also not trying to do that. I like the, I like a little bit of unfinished look as well to things, instead of it being, you know, absolutely perfect or whatever. Which like I said, I would never be able to do anyway. Okay, so let's see. Now we're gonna wash off my brush, go in here to some tree color again, which I'm gonna grab a little bit of cobalt blue, a little bit of green. I want a little bit of a darker green, so this is kind of like, a little too much. It's kind of like, I like to vary my greens too, so that I'm not, you know, we don't want to use the same color all over the place on a painting. You want to vary the greens, vary the colors a bit. But this tree is pretty much behind that house. So, and we want to add some more shadow to this one because it's also kind of behind the house there. And we'll put a little extra shade right behind here, where it's behind the house. But I love how, you know, you start and you just, you start in one little area and you think, oh my, you know. One thing I have never done is I don't look at anything I have to do. I look at the whole thing, the whole picture of whatever it is, and then I start breaking it down in my mind. That's what I do. I don't think about, oh my gosh, I've got this whole piece of paper I've got to fill up. No, I just pick areas and that's where I start. I start working. Now we're coming more to the lighter area of this painting. So what's going to happen, excuse me, is things are going to start becoming lighter as I paint them. They're just not going to be as dark. You know, this, I wanted to point out with this jelly gouache, this pigment is very pigmented. It really is. I'm really quite amazed by these paints. I got them off Amazon, oh, probably 3 years ago. And I just was cleaning my closet, rearranging it actually. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'd forgotten they were in a bag. I'm like, oh my word, I forgot all about those. So, you know, I took them out and started in, I know I had used them once, but I really did just totally forget about them. And I think they're great. I'm working with black, so I've got to really rinse off my brush, give it a real good swish in there. And then I'm coming over to the yellow because I want to add some real light areas here to my green. And I'm sort of working dry on dry over here so that I can get that effect. I'm going to take some of the green and the yellow, blue, and right up here I want to just sort of not too much paint on my brush. I don't want too much, but we need a shadow that's coming down here. And we need some darker color over here by the road. This little road here. And that, let me bring this tree down because it's indicating that there is a road that goes up around there. I just wet my brush because what I need to do, take the paint off, and I need to make that road really look as though it's going, so I'm removing paint right now, is what I'm doing. So that add some of this brown and red. But I suggest to anybody out there, any of you that have been wanting to paint, this particular type of paint is a great thing to start with as far as watercolor. If you don't want to, if you feel, I don't know, afraid or something to start with a watercolor because you're not sure what it'll do. This is, this is kind of like, I'd say, an in-between medium, I guess you could put it. Right now I'm making bushes. I'm indicating that there are bushes, like a hedge behind these rocks. So what I'm saying is that I do feel that I can definitely say that this would be a good medium to use. It's not quite as, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's not quite as difficult as watercolor. So watercolor does take a bit of practice and getting used to, which is no problem. You just do it until you figure it out. You just keep doing it. I can't tell you how many times I started and stopped just because I just didn't feel like I could understand it enough. But I really wanted to do it. I really did. And so I just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it until I finally was happy with that I got it. I'm getting, you know, started getting a really good understanding of how it works. And again, like anything else, excuse me, the more you do it, the better you get at it. This is really just that simple. It's like anything. When I learned the guitar, the more I did it, the more the better I got at it. I never felt like I was very good at it, but I mean, the fact of the matter is the more you practice, the better you get at anything that you do. Now, the front of this building, I have this creamy yellowish color, is what this color is. So I'm going to add that right here to this side of this building. And this is the shade side of it, so it's a little bit, it's a bit lighter, darker than this side here. If I could talk this morning, it'd be great. All right, and we're going to just put a couple of little indication of windows there. Excuse me. And I'm going over these again to make them darker. And then we have like the bottoms, you know, the ground grass near the edge near the houses and stuff. You just want to darken that up a bit. Shade there. And anyway, this is what I'm working on for a while today. What I'm going to do is add, I was really hoping I wouldn't lose my voice, but it looks like I'm going to. So I'm going to swish around here and add some of these little tree and bush. And that's what I'm going to finish doing here. You can do it two ways. You can add the, excuse me, you can add the branches first and the foliage after. Or you can do the foliage first, and then when it dries, excuse me, add the branches. Well, it looks like I'm going to lose my voice, folks. So anyway, this is what we're working on today. And again, it is the part watercolor and part gouache. I don't know if I can move this camera just a little bit so you can see it a little better, but that is the scene that we're working on. And hopefully I'll come back a little bit later and have some more progress, and we can do this again, and you can see some of the progress that I've made, and I can give you tips on some other things I've done within the scene itself. So thanks for painting with me. You can also slow down or speed up whatever you do the video when you're watching it to help yourself. I always did that when I was learning. So thanks for being with me, and I'll join up with you later. Bye.